Hello, friends. Welcome to another edition of Mel Sanders Friends. Today is October the 21st, 2021, and we have an exciting conversation for you today around education. This is something that most of my guests are familiar with, and we're going to get into some really good conversation. I think it'll be educational. It'll help folks that have unique situations and problems with their students, their young people. So stay tuned. And maybe you can call a friend or a neighbor and let them know that we're going to be having this kind of conversation around education. You know, one of the things I noticed is that when you have problems in school, a lot of parents have no idea of how to deal with it. I don't know if it's, I know some of it is fear, and then some of it is ignorance. What's your take on it? Why do we have parents that have problems going to the school campuses or meeting with their teachers or whatever? Mr. Cato, oh, by the way, Cato is one of our guests, and Miss Paula Massey is with us too, so I want to make sure we introduce our team. But what do you think?
It's a combination of both. Most parents feel out of their element when they're going to a school because they don't know the rules, for one, and, procedures, and so it's an authority that they're not used to being around. Not like a job where you go in and you know a boss. At a school, you're kind of like a fish out of water. You're out of your element, and you're waiting on somebody to tell you because they're supposed to be smarter than you, and that kicks in. Well, it's education, so they got to know more than what I know. So
After all, they went to school
for it, and they're teaching my kids, so they got to know more than me. So I'm gonna sit here and listen to what they have to say because they're smarter than me. And in most cases, that's not how it's done, or it should be done.
Right. What's your take on it, Miss Massey?
Well, I agree. I agree with Mr. Cato that a lot of it is that parents are scared, um, and they assume that the teacher is smarter than, should know what they're talking about. But although these teachers have gone to school and got an education, they did not get an education on your child particularly. When I was running a private school in Lemoore, my main thing, even when I was going to college, was that you are your child's first teacher. You carried that child for 9 months, then you had that child with you for 5 years before they even went into kindergarten. You know what motivates that child. You know how to get that child to do what they need to do. When they go onto that school campus, now it becomes a guessing game. The teacher is trying to guess what's going to motivate your child, what's going to do this. Is it sending him to the office? Is it sending her to the office? What is it that's going to motivate? But you are your child's first teacher. You know that child better than that teacher does.
So how do you no, I'm just thinking, how do you overcome that challenge if you're an intimidated parent and maybe you got 2 or 3 kids in school? How do you overcome that challenge of having that fear factor of assuming that the teacher is more qualified than you to know basically what your child needs?
I think what we as Black families, we need to do is we need to form committees, communities together around the education of our child. And there's somebody that has gone through that challenge before you've gone through that challenge. And we all have to speak up and help each other. I feel that that's the main thing that I think that we all, like the challenges that I've gone through, I didn't just go through those challenges because Paula just needed to go through those challenges with her children. I've gone through those, I come through those so I can help somebody else. Anything that we ever go through is not only because of us, for us, it's for us to help somebody else to go through those same doors and those same struggles. The one thing that you mentioned, Mr. Sanders, is that they going on the school campus. You can't just walk up on the school campus now.
Yeah.
You have to make an appointment and all of that other kind of stuff. You can't even volunteer on the school campus. When I was volunteering on the campus because of my class that I was taking, and I had to do some observation, it was like jumping through hoops to try to get on in a 3rd grade. And I didn't want to go into the 3rd grade class. I wanted to go into the 6th grade class where his brother was teaching, and he was a first-year student, but they didn't want me to be in his class. They
So
put me in the
intimidating.
third grade class, which I was very grateful for because I learned that in our third grade classes, there were kids that were there that were non-readers.
Mm,
Non-readers is a person that don't know the word it, is, and, if, to, the.
mm.
Those are non-readers. And those are kids that are in third grade and went on to the fourth grade.
So what do you think, Mr. Cato? What do you think some of the intimidation factors are about parents being a part of their kids' education on campus?
Well,
Or it doesn't necessarily have to be on campus, just being a part of the education period.
well, yeah, it's that's a balance there that's you have to be careful about how you approach it, um, because first of all, the parents, it's hard to get them, say even at school, for a meeting or anything,
Yeah.
and that's your first struggle is to get them there, and then to be involved. I was shocked because one of my customers was a teacher out in Clovis, and she relayed to me is that when COVID hit, she had to not just dealing with the students, she had to deal with the parents. She actually was grading the parents.
Oh, really?
Yes.
On what?
Th-
I mean, based
across
on-
the board involvement,
Oh,
what they
okay.
were, how they were helping that student or their child, the level of involvement that they had. It wasn't just her just dealing with the student. She was 50-50 was on the parents also, which shocked me. It's like, I know you want to get them involved, but you're taking it to Clovis Unified. That was a mandate. That wasn't just that this was this teacher doing that. This was coming down from administration. This is what you are required to do from now on. You have to engage these parents. You have to really teach them like you're teaching the student, because if you teach them, it's going to filter down to the students. So we want you engaged with that parent. And she didn't really like it because it was something foreign to her. But it was that next level of hands-on with the parents that had never been done before.
You know, Paula, you mentioned about coming onto the campus, and you can't do it the way you used to. I remember years ago, but I guess I'm one of the lucky ones. Mom and Dad never came on the campus, and there was never a real need for them to come on campus because we not that we were so smart, but there was the fear factor. If they had to come on campus, to talk to a teacher, it had to be during the evening. What do they have? Those were the open house
Parent
or what?
teacher conference.
Yeah, that was it. But if they had to come any other time, then we knew there was going to be some problems at home. So I don't think that's I didn't want that. But in terms of parents these days being able to come on campus, what is the process, Ms. Paul?
Well, from what I understand is that you call the
Time
school,
out.
you talk to the secretary.
Time out. Hold on a minute. Hold on. You're a board member, and you say from what you understand, you know, right? You have detail knowledge.
I'm a board member at the high school. I'm telling you what was happening 3-4 years ago.
Okay, I'm just
I
asking
don't know what's happening now.
what are
I'm
the
talking about
rules?
3 or 4 years ago, you called the secretary on the school and you said that I like to visit my child's class.
Okay.
And they give you a date and a time. When can you come? And then you're down there. So you got to show up on that day. You just don't walk up on campus and say, I want to go into my child's classroom.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that now because there's so many things that are happening on the campus.
Is
in
that
other
justifiable?
places.
Is that justifiable in terms of, is that justifiable? And I say that because some parents can have a positive effect on a student that's maybe a disciplinary problem when they can just surprise a student and come in their class. So
Yes.
you're saying that those days are no longer with us because of things that have happened over the years all over the country?
Over the years, unless you're in a school that will, understand, or one thing that you made that connection or that relationship with that teacher and that principal and those people on that school campus where they know you.
Mm-hmm.
And now, then that's a different that's a different set of circumstances. Now you may be able just to kind of go in there because they already know what you're going to do when you go in there.
Okay.
As having me on the campus at the elementary school, as a Black woman, and I had Black students in my class, because the parents couldn't come there, and there was one parent that did come in there, but she had to make sure that, she had to let them know that she was going to come on this and such a day. As a Black woman, and I could look at those kids and like, and do my face like, really?
Unspoken
and I get down
message,
in there and say, I need you to sit in your chair, or do you need help sitting in your chair?
Ooh.
Yeah, okay. And that's how I would do it. And I had some that tell me like, I'm like, ooh, Lord, help me right now. Or I could walk into a classroom where there was a substitute and these kids were acting like crazy. I'm like, hold up. I walk in there and say, hold up, what's up? What's up? You know what you're supposed to be doing. And that's just how I responded to them. And they all sat down there and they said, we're supposed to be doing this. I said, then why aren't you doing it? Get it done. And by me being there with the teacher, she couldn't do everything. When the teacher was there, she couldn't do everything by herself. She didn't have any aides in the class. But by me being able to know how a classroom was supposed to be run, I was able to go and just get up out of my seat instead of just sitting there observing and go assist those students because she couldn't get to all of them.
So what say ye, Mr. Cato? Before you say that, though, one thing that I noticed over the years, there used to be classes that required having a teacher's aide in the classroom, which was an assistant, I think, assistance to that classroom teacher. And because of whatever reason, they claim budgetary reasons, that's not the case anymore. You don't find too many classrooms, especially elementary school classrooms with teacher aides in it. But what are your thoughts?
When you get down talking about money, now, you know that's a pet peeve of mine. Why you even get me started?
Well,
See,
I opened it up.
Yes, you did, and now I'm gonna let you have it. See, it seems like every year you get a call for more money. More money in education.
You're talking about from the governmental level?
From the government, yeah, that's where it all comes from and filters down. So from them to the classroom, to me the money doesn't go where it's supposed to go, which is the classroom. Why should a teacher have to come out of her pocket every month and pay for pencils and paper? Where is that? There's a budget. I know there's such thing as a budget. Every school has one. Every district has one, regardless. So, and the money is there based off of the amount of students that you get. Why is it that you don't have pencils and papers for every classroom?
Well, wait a minute. I think they do at the beginning of the year, but I can remember when I worked at a school that at the beginning of the year, the teachers would put in their orders for what they needed in the classrooms, and they would get most of it.
That's still the same problem. You can't teach a student if you don't have pencil and paper. Okay, now a lot of stuff is on tablets and stuff. Okay, still same thing. The government is giving the districts tablets. So it's not that you got to fork that money up out of the school district itself. That money's coming down from the federal government anyway. So all that stuff is provided. I don't care if it is a tablet or a piece of paper and a pencil. That money is still allocated to that school district based off the number of kids that attend that every month, or if you want to say every day. So how is it that you don't have what you need per the students that you have in your classroom? Now, if the teacher itself is messing up where she or he hasn't figured out how many students they're going to have, which they do, it's not on a daily basis because just like jobs, some people call in sick or out of vacation or whatever the reason is. But in general, they know how many students. And then if something messes up where they might be off one or two, that's not going to stop that classroom from operating, and yet they still have to go back and come out of their pocket. No, you go back to your principal and say, look, I have 3 extra students that you guys sent me or that we didn't allocate for. I need such and such. The money is there. Putting more money in administration isn't going to teach that student anything.
Okay, well, let's ask that budgetary question to the board member, whose one of their primary functions is to oversee and understand the budget. Why do teachers have that problem of having what they need in classrooms? Board member is real quiet.
Well, I agree with Cato that at the beginning of the school year, the teachers do order what they want, what they need, and they may not get it all. They may not get it all. And I don't know who determines what is enough or what is not enough. The money issue is always going to be a money issue. They're always going to throw that up. And I've seen where teachers go into like Staples at the beginning of the school year. I could go to Staples right now and I could get stuff, and they ask me, am I a teacher? And I have to show my ID card. Then I get a discount. Why I got to get a discount from Staples? Because I got to come out of my pocket instead of going to the school and getting it. The teachers do, especially at the elementary, they come up with a lot of things that they want because they have little ideas of how they could get their classroom organized. And maybe it's that the school doesn't feel like they need all those folders or they need all those markers. But markers run out. My solution to that is that if I give Johnny a set of markers in my folders and I give him everything he needs at the beginning of the school year, enough pencils, I have pencils here. They can, sharpen your pencils, do whatever you need to do. But once they leave those pencils or lose that pencil, there's a chart that these teachers have. Now, I might get shot at, but I don't know. But there's a chart that the teachers have. It's a conduct chart. And so when a child does something good or something they're supposed to do, they get a little check mark or a little sticker on there. But if you come to school and you don't have your pencils or you're losing your stuff every time, I take that sticker back, because at the end of the week, as many stickers you have, you're going to get a little something. So there has to be some type of consequences for those students losing their stuff. They have to learn at an early age to hold on to your stuff. And especially if the teacher gives you pencil cases and all that other kind of stuff, you should not be losing all that. And maybe they take it home and they don't have any at home. Maybe their parents don't have the means to buy pencils and stuff like that at the house. But the question that you asked, Mel, was about the teachers that are coming in as aides and not having the money. I think there's money. I know there's money. There's money there for a teacher's aide because they have them at the high school. For those kids who are having issues and stuff like that, they hire teachers' assistants. I remember when they stopped doing teachers' assistants at the elementary, and they called them pair professionals.
Yeah.
And then you had to have 12 units in order to be working at the school to be a paraprofessional as a teacher's assistant. So they started adding more and more. You're in this community and you want to volunteer in the classroom. Now you're telling me I need to go to college and I need to get 12 child development units or whatever. That don't make sense. You don't even require the teachers to have child development classes, which you should, especially in the elementary school. But I think that what they've done is they put more on it so they can find a reason not to have it. We can't find those people. They're not qualified. We don't have qualified people. I think a lot of our community members are a lot more qualified than the teachers that they're hiring to teach our students. And the reason why I say that, because I believe that when you have students of different colors, ethnicities in your school, you need to have a representative. You need to have representatives, whether you're going to pay them as far as a staff or volunteers, however they come in, you need to have representatives of each one of those children in that school.
So let me say this. Let me maybe shed a little light on this. When we talk about having dollars available for the material and staffing, the school districts have what they call categorical funding, and those dollars come to the district to meet the needs of whatever that district may need to reach out to. They have also a general fund. Now, the general fund dollars can be spent on anything that's related to education, but categorical dollars can only be spent on those things identified to that category. The challenge is for most superintendents who have a business manager is to be able to mix and match the money to maximize the usage. And a lot of times you have people who work with finance who do not have education backgrounds. They understand money, but they don't understand how to connect the money with the classroom so that the teacher and the students benefit. And that has been the case for years in terms of how the best schools are able to function, and other schools don't have that kind of a success because they don't have that kind of folks that are in the process of making sure that our kids get what they need. But
Well, can I ask a question?
sure, go ahead.
Well, how did that happen? How do those schools get somebody on there that can make the connection between finances and education? And because when I was running the private school in Lemoore, and I think it was what was it? There were certain monies that we could get because our children were low income,
Yeah, Title
and they
One.
were getting free lunch. Was that
Title,
10, Title 10?
Title One. Title One money.
Title One money, Title One money. And I was able to go through the school, get my GW school supply book, and order whatever I wanted to order.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't give me the money. They weren't giving this black girl no money, but they bought me everything that I needed.
Because you had a
Everything
relationship.
that I needed for that school for 5 years,
So
we was able to get.
Which
Yeah.
means that you had a relationship with that school district because it
Yeah,
was
I did.
their kids lived in that school district and you were able to do that. But, you know, for the most part, when you're talking about a budget at most districts, the average budget for most school districts, let's say in Fresno County and even Kings County, their average budget is somewhere around maybe from $10,000 to $50,000 a year, except for Fresno Unified, which is one of the larger. Clovis is next, and then you have Sanger and Central. But the smaller school districts have a budget of around $10 million, and the other ones go up from there. And not everybody has the ability to manage the money with an educational background to know how you can apply it. So there is the challenge, and so the district has to go outside of someone who's in education to somebody who's in business and have them handle that for them. And that's where you have a lot of the problems because they just don't understand. They can't make the connection between why we would use this money for this as opposed to seeing how we can best utilize all of the money to make it happen. So they try to stay away from as much as possible, which is a smart thing, I think, using general fund money when they can use categorical money. I think that makes sense. You use all of that. But I'll tell you, if you look at every district, they'll always have some carryover money in categorical.
Yeah.
And so those things, you have to be a sharp board member to understand how that works. And most of that, they're not interested in sharing with you. What are your thoughts?
And you know what? I'm sorry. Each school has a site council meetings,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when I've gone to site council meetings in Armona, there were parents that were there. There was a lot of teachers there, but the parents were mainly Hispanic parents.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that I went to here in Hanford and even Lemoore, Hanford, you didn't see you see more teachers there than you see parents. But when I went to the one in Armona, they had some money. They were buying books for kindergarten and first grade, easels and stuff, because this is what the parents, the different ones said and the teachers said this they needed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they were also taking the money to buy a phone system. They spent more money on the phone system, and then with the easels, they said, okay, kindergarten and first grade got to share the easels, and they had to share the books. Why do they have to share the books? And you spending all this money on an AT&T phone system for the school.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when we have to educate our community, educate our parents, and it's so hard because unless they get involved and go to those half-hour site council meetings, and it could be a lot longer, but it's only a half an hour because there ain't nobody there to say, my classroom needs this, my child class, why aren't they using the books? Why are those books still sitting on the counter, on the shelf, and you can crack the book, the cover, and they're not being used? Why is my children coming home with packages but there's no book to match the packages so I can teach my children or understand that, okay, oh, let's look in the book and see how this is actually done. But you're going to give me a packet of paper that they get on Monday, got to turn back on Thursday. No. Parents need to come on board and start saying these things. I mean, I can say it all I want to, but I don't have no children in school anymore. But if I come to bring you guys along, you got to be able to do this, even at the high school. The only time I see parents there is when they were doing the mandate, and there wasn't even Black parents that were there. And I saw, and if your child was suspended, and you were there to find out what was going to be the outcome of that child.
So that leads me to the next question I wanted to raise, and maybe Mr. Cato, you can address this first. How important is it for parents to have relationships with their teachers?
Well, it is extremely, because then you'll know what's going on with your child. I mean, you that communication has to be there, especially from the teacher to the parent. It goes both ways, but they're kind of separate. The one with the teacher to the parent, that gives you that connection, that gives you that one-on-one, so that the parent feels a little bit at ease, because I've met you now. I've heard you, hopefully. You're supposed to know what is best for my child. You, as far as the education standpoint, you're the expert. So you should know my child, what's going on with my child educational wise, better than I am. I know what's going on at home, but as far as being taught, is he or she learning? What is the difficulty that they're having? All that should come from the teacher, because the parent's not going to know. They won't have a clue. When you come home and the only thing you say, well, did you do your homework? And if you get into high school, you're probably not even saying that anymore. You just look at them. And most likely, is there a football game on Friday? So, but that you got to have that communication going that direction from the teacher at least from the teacher. That's why I was so shocked when Clovis instituted that, because that hadn't been done before. Mandating that the teacher interacts with the parent, not just we're not talking about a phone call. This was not what she was complaining about. She's talking about, I'm teaching this parent just like I'm teaching the child, and you're expecting that parent to know this new math? Oh, I wish they would come to me talking about X, Y, and Z and minus this. Oh, shoot, you might well forget it. But that's what they're requiring now. That's good. But it also puts more on that teacher. It's twofold. It puts more on that teacher, where you not only you have the student, you got to deal with the parents, and you're teaching the parent as well as the student. And like I said, that wasn't the teacher; that was through the district. So, I mean, it's a good thing, but it's also I can see it, because most parents don't have the time, if you want to say the time. They don't dedicate the time as far as their child at school, what they're doing, what they're learning, until they get that report card home.
Ms. Bessie, what do you say about that? And what are some of the challenges that you may see in parents having relationships with teachers, classroom teacher, your child's classroom teacher? Well,
what Cato is talking about, what Clovis did, it was the multi-tier system of support, MTSS, and there's money attached to that. And one of the things that with this multi-tier system of support is reaching out to the families, getting involved, getting that family involved, because it's happening all over, because we're doing here in Hanford, multi-tier support system. And so what I think is that in having the relationship with the teacher, the parents having that relationship with the teacher, and the teacher having that relationship with the parent, it also helps that child. Okay, my mama's talking to this teacher talking to my mama. Okay, they got something going on. When California decided to accept the what was that?
No Child Left Behind.
that new program that they got now.
Nope.
My brain is after 3 o'clock. So my
Was
brain
it was it
I
no
don't wanna
no
work.
no child left behind or the one
Not
after
no,
that?
no Child Left Behind. The other one that just came out.
Oh yeah. It'll
Yeah,
come
a
back.
can't
lot
think
of
of it
people
right
were
now.
complaining about.
Common Core.
Yeah,
Common
Common
Core.
Core. That's it. Yes.
Yeah.
What happened with that is a lot of parents was like, what are they doing? Parents were coming like Carolyn. She was at after school over the after school program where she was at her school site, and kids were coming and saying, "My mama don't know what she doing. My mama dumb. They don't know." Huh? What? No, your mama not dumb. The teachers didn't even know how to teach this stuff. The Common Core. So that's a lot of the reason why. So the parents had to back up. 2 + 2 was no longer 4.
Right.
Okay. So you had to do, and then they got all this critical thing that you had to do, critical thinking and stuff. Man, they first got to learn how to read before you could do critical thinking. So a lot of that, but if the parent and the teacher, but what I always used to tell my parents is that you are your child's first teacher. You have hired me to educate your child. Now, when I come to you, it's because I need help from you. I don't know how to steer Johnny in this way. Can you give me some pointers? I'm not coming to that parent like, you don't know nothing. I am the one. I am the almighty teacher. No, you are the teacher. You've had that child for the first 5 years of their life. I need your help. And so when that teacher could come in there and say, I need your help, parent, you got it. My son, my oldest son, I had a few teachers that were like that. I had one teacher that would send my son to the principal all the time, and he had to go to the student attendance review board. And they went in and see a psychologist and all this stuff because they thought something was wrong with him. But then he had another teacher to say, oh, Miss Hamilton, your son really loves the piano. If he could come a little earlier, I would love to teach him the piano. She bought him books and stuff. My son picked up the piano just like that, learned how to read music. She didn't teach him very long, but she saw something in him. So it's about these teachers, having that communication with the parents. And I try to have the communication with the parents. I try to ask questions and stuff. Sometimes they don't like asking questions, but you have to.
I'd like to take it to another, to encompass something else in this conversation. That has to do with special education.
Yeah.
A lot of our students, African Americans in particular, are identified as being special needs, and it may not always be true. And I'll give you an example. Well, I don't know if I'd be the best example, but we'll try. When I was in the 5th grade, I had to repeat the 5th grade, and I had to do that because I couldn't focus. I just could not focus. And when my mom went to the parent-teacher conference, the teacher said, he just doesn't apply himself. He doesn't apply himself. But I didn't realize that I had, and neither did the teacher at that time, this is back in the 60s, that I had a learning disability. I learned differently from other folks because I didn't have a dominant side. And the way I found that out is years after that, I went to work at the high school that I graduated from, and in a capacity as a person that was in charge of a program. And one of the things, because we had limited African Americans on staff, we all teamed up and we tried to do what we could during the February month, on Black History Month. And so one day I was out and I was looking for the special ed teacher who happened to be an African American woman, and I walked out to the gymnasium and she was talking to one of her students. And while she was talking, I picked up a basketball and I was bouncing around and I was shooting the ball with my left hand, shooting baskets. And when she finished talking, we walked back over to her classroom and I got to the chalkboard and I was trying to explain to her something about the Black History program, that we should be located in this area and that. And I had the chalk in my right hand writing on the board. And she stopped me and she said, weren't you out shooting basketball with your left hand? I said, yeah. But you write with your right? Yeah. You had a hard time learning how to read, didn't you? And it just shocked me. I said, yeah, how'd you know? She says, you have no dominant side of your brain. That's why you're doing this with this hand and you're shooting basketball with this hand. And it just really surprised me. And it just opened my eyes up to how many more people had that same kind of problem and didn't get the help they needed at a young age to overcome that. Because, it didn't mean that we couldn't learn. We just learned differently.
Differently.
What say ye, Mr. Cato? Don't laugh at me. And I knew he was going to say something.
That explains a lot.
He's just waiting, huh?
African American students have been, wow. If you want even to say the word misdiagnosed, that doesn't do justice. It's almost, to me, it's almost like the angry black woman. Because you might move your head when you talk, doesn't put you in the category that you're angry just because you're black. I mean, I've been accused of that too. I wasn't shaking my head. It was just the tone of my voice. And when we as black people, get excited, our voice might change. It might go up. It might go down. But we're assumed to be angry or mad because of the position that we're taking. Well, that you got that student who is not understood as he's just a regular student. I'm just looking at him different. Mm-hmm. So, I just like the test. How are you going to have a test, so-called, straight across the board, but it doesn't relate to that student? And I'm trying to equate that to, if you had, wow. If you have no knowledge of something, none. I mean, yet the test is asking you a question, and just say if you were you were asking a question about, wait a minute, snow. I ran across some people who have never seen snow. Not
even on TV?
On TV, but being there is different. And, because you see it, but you're not understanding what you're seeing. Mm-hmm. And being there, and then they were driving and never been in the snow. Had never been in the snow. I mean, you can see it on certain days up in the mountains, but being there in it, walking through it, that person mind was blown. So if the question on the test is even as simple as what color is snow, how would you know? Because you haven't had any contact with snow, but yet the test is there, and that question can be put 5 different ways. Yet you're expected to answer that question. You're taking that person, putting them in a situation they've never been. So how is it that now you're expecting them to answer a question when they don't know no concept of what you're asking them? That's a lot of my son, the same thing. He passed all his state mandate tests. That was no problem because of his daddy. But it was just, he even told me back then, and he's 31 now, some of the stuff on that question is just crazy. It should not even be asked because it's unrelatable from a black perspective for me to even answer that question, because it is different when you ask that same question to a white kid. Mm-hmm. So, stuff like that, we're not treated on an equal level in a lot of different ways.
What say ye, Miss Paula?
Well, you know what? Cato said a mouthful, because if you're living in the city like I was living in New York, I've seen snow. We grew up with snow. But if you wake up every morning when it's snowing and the plows have come through and they did that, what color is your snow?
Brown.
Black.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
the snow is black. That's all you ever see. What color is snow? Black.
Right.
Well, that's what you see. What color is your snow? Yellow, because he just got finished peeing. No.
Writing your name.
I know. I'm just acting crazy. Okay, but the importance of what parents need to know about special ed is that there's a lot of things that you can do, and you don't need to be forced into doing things for your children. When a child is diagnosed or is sent into special ed, that's ching, that's more money for the school. So when that school is making money on that child in that special ed class, do you think their whole purpose is to work with that child so they can kind of go back into the regular classroom? No. Because what happens, if they go back into the classroom, they no longer consider it special ed, guess what? They lose a lot. They lose a little bit of that money.
Yeah, quite a bit of that money.
We have a lot of children that are getting IEPs, individual educational plans, that are actually maybe they're not even what we consider as special ed. We need to figure out what we consider as special ed. Okay. When I was running that school, everybody in that school had special needs. Everybody. And that was the one beautiful thing about my private school, is because I could prescribe them a curriculum according to their gaps, what they needed, and they were able to succeed. So I think parents need to, like I said, they need to talk among each other. There needs to be a group where the parents could talk among each other and find out what's doing. I've seen where heard where parents were asked to fill out these paperwork so that do the IEP. And they said, okay, I'm gonna take it home. No, you can't take it home. You got to do it right here. And then the parent wound up filling out the paperwork and filling it out wrong, and wondering why their child is not succeeding and why they're taking these classes and not these classes. Because you were under the duress of these teachers and these principals or whoever was there saying you had to fill it out now. You know, you don't have to fill it out now. You could find somebody, or even if you go into an IEP meeting, take somebody with you. We have to learn how to partner up and stop saying, this is my business. Ain't nobody got no business knowing my business. No, it ain't your business. It's your child's business. It's our community business that your child get the right help that they need. Did I preach? Can I pass the offering plate?
Yes, you did. And I'm going to pick up from where you left off. The other biggest problem as far as special ed, because I have a special ed son, the one I was the one I was talking about is a twin. So my son who is special ed, half the time when you are dealing with the parent who's special ed, your child, they do not know what their rights are.
Right.
They don't have a clue. So when they go in, you're told this is what your child needs. First of all, back up. That's not correct. What they say is, what would you like for your child? What concerns do you have? What areas would you like for us to concentrate on? Okay, that sounds good. But when I learned real quick was that the problem was not just asking that question. The problem was, why were you asking that question? Because you wanted for me to tell you what I wanted for my son without me really even knowing. That's your job. You're the educator. You're the one who's a specialist. I should be just ask. The first thing out of your mouth is, this is what I feel, how I feel that your son needs, and this is how we're going to get him there. What what else do you see that? And we crossed some things. We went down the list and we stuck to them, because I learned very quickly that with special ed, you do what I tell you. It's not a maybe, a if, or I guess.
So who are you talking about? You're talking about the parent?
You're talking about the
staff?
The parent is the boss.
Okay.
And the parent is the one that says, this is what I want for my child. And guess what? 9 times out of 10, unless you're asking for something really crazy, they have to do it because that's the law. What I want for my son, I'm gonna tell you how it got down to where it got down to where I was in the county. The city came and sent a school bus to pick him up and take him to a city school.
County didn't offer what you needed?
It wasn't an option because they knew what I wanted. They had to provide what I wanted for my son. It wasn't a question of, well, what do you think? No, what do you want? But they don't ask you. They're scared to ask you that because, for one, they don't want to be put on the spot to be asked the question of, well, what do you think? Well, that's your job to tell me first. And then I'll tell you what I think. You're the professional. When you hire me, I don't come in and ask you, well, what do you think about your roaches? No, I'm gonna tell you, and I'm gonna tell you how. When you ask me a question, I'm gonna answer it. Then I'll get to you. I'm the professional. You're paying me. Well, you're the same case. You're getting paid. I'm paying you to teach my son. This is what I want him taught, and this is where I want him taught. It's not a matter of he's going over here. They tried that stuff from the very beginning, and guess what? I shut that down real quick. Oh, he's going to go over here to Holland. No, he's not.
How did you learn that you had that option? You read a lot?
No, because, I read a lot. I read people. Because the question is, once they figure out that you know what you're talking about, then they back off. then they really want to hear what most of them are guiding you the way they want you to go. Quick and easy, no problems. Let's get him or her out of here. And that didn't work. For one, I was always available. You call me, if you got to do is call me. I'll be there in 15 minutes. I don't care where I'm at. I'll be there. Yet, when it comes down to my son, special ed, special ed? I know what the word special means. That's the half of the whole battle right there. Special? Yeah. Oh, special means, okay, now you're going to do what I say. This is what and when they got through, they were doing stuff crazy I couldn't understand. He was at a daycare. They would pick him up from the daycare and take him to school, knowing good and well that's not where he lived. But you know what they asked the question was? But you say he lays down and takes a nap there? Yes. Oh, okay. So that's where he lives.
That qualifies as
they found a way. They found a way. I'm like,
yeah.
Wait a minute. He don't live there. You know he don't live there, but yet you going to. So once you told me that you can do anything, it was over with. And then from there, I just went to being an advocate for other parents because they didn't know. Nobody knew because nobody told them you're in charge. This is your child. Tell them what you want. But you got to make them tell you what he needs because that's not your job. They're teaching him. So make them tell you what he needs. They're so scared to tell you that. They're sitting there almost shaking like, I really don't want to answer that question. Well, you're going to because this is my child. So you know what he needs. Tell me what he needs, then I'm going to tell you what he's going to get, what you're going to give him.
So you were you mentioned something about an advocate for other parents who didn't know.
Yeah. I had to be. I'm just like Paul said. I'm going to give you what you don't. I'm going to spread what I learned and give it to you. Then you learn what I've given you, and you give it to somebody else. Because 9 times out of 10, they don't know anything about what rights they have. Mm-hmm. They can give you all the paperwork that you want, but they know you're not going to read it. So when they're not going to tell you, guess what? You're in charge. If you want him to go way over, they were going to try to send him to a school that was severely handicapped. I mean, these kids didn't know who they were. They were in wheelchairs, drooling, and all that. I mean, I got special ed, so I'm not talking down to them. I'm just explaining just what's going on.
Yeah, severely disabled.
You're not sending him over there. I went to probably 5 different school sites. No, you're not sending. This is just to put him somewhere. Oh, not my son. And my son is what they call a tweener. He's in the level where he's teachable, trainable, and learnable. Where all the teachers would say, "I wish that all my students were like your son." Because he's so mild, no problem, no issues, no angers and stuff like that. And majority of them, a lot of them that they have, he has none of that stuff. So they just loved him. Well, okay, you're not going to put him in that situation. But if I had been a normal parent, then I wouldn't have known that. If I hadn't picked up on stuff like that. So you talked about a pet peeve with me as far as special ed. Any parents, you can get a hold of me through Mel Sanders and Friends, and if you don't understand some stuff, I'll tell you what I know. But you have to stand up for your rights, special ed or not. Mm-hmm. Your child is the reason why they're in business.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, Ms. Paula, you want to have a comment before we close out the show?
When he was talking about that, I thought about the least restrictive environment. That's where, if you have an IEP, it states that your child, you determine the least restrictive environment that your child could be in. And that least restrictive environment is an environment where they can flourish, they can do what they need to do. They don't have to sit there like a zombie. I mean, there was one young lady that she wanted me to tutor her child because they had integrated him into a first grade class. He was high functioning. He had cerebral palsy. Yeah, he had cerebral palsy. And so I told her, I can't tutor him because he's falling asleep every time he comes to me. But I had opened up my home preschool. I said, you could have him come to my preschool and I would teach him. CVRC paid her to pay me to teach him. When he came to me, he couldn't even cut. He couldn't trace. He didn't write his name. He didn't recognize his name. By the time those 9 months were up, he was doing all of that. He was doing all of his mother knew that he could do it. On the other hand, his daddy said, she working him too hard. No, I wasn't working him too hard. I was giving him exactly what he needed because the school would just give him a coloring page and some crayons and teach the other kids, and he's just sitting there. I mean, the least restrictive environment. So if that means that he has to go into a classroom where they just have bean bags and pillows and stuff like that, and that's the place where he could relax and he could or she could learn, then that's what they do. Thank you for sharing that, Cato. That you chose the school where your child was going to. You just didn't allow them to do whatever they wanted to do to their child. And some parents don't know that. I've gone to IEPs with parents, and their parents let me speak. They said, "Can she?" Yeah, she could talk. I says, one child every day. Oh, you're doing good. You're doing good. You're doing good. But then the parents get a note home saying she's not really doing really good. Now this girl is confused. Am I doing good? Am I not doing good? Am I doing good? You're telling my parents. And I said, okay, she needs a visual. So can you just create a chart for her that when she's doing her work, the teacher just come over and check the work and say, oh, you did that really well. Start on your next page. Oh, we're not going to do that. I just threw my hands up. I'm like, I backed up in my chair. I'm like, y'all parents, it's on y'all now. This is so simple because I did it with a special needs child before. And I wouldn't have to keep running over her. She had to keep looking around, finding what does she do next. She knew what to do next because it was on the board right in front of her.
So they were capable of learning.
But they didn't want to do it.
Well, I hope we've had an opportunity to share some information that folks could appreciate and use. If you got young children or you have relatives or friends that have young children, this information was meant for you, and it'll help somebody. So it's time for us to check out of here, but we've enjoyed coming to you with our information, and we look forward to coming back to you with some more important information. So until next time, let me say this. It's easier to ask forgiveness than permission. So do something. That's all
Next
for tonight,
time we'll
folks.
talk about redistricting in the schools, okay?
We'll get
I
to
heard
that.
some information today.
Okay, real good. Till then, we'll see you next time, folks. Have a great week.
All right.
Love you guys. Peace out.
Aqua Nail Spa is the most luxurious nails and spa salon in Fresno and Clovis. Our staff are friendly, courteous, and highly skilled. Come in and let us pamper you. Located at 1398 Shaw Avenue in Clovis, California, on the southwest corner of Shaw and Sunnyside. Also located at 1850 Herndon Avenue, Suite 111 in Clovis, California. Have dents or dings that need to be removed from your car? Well, look no further. Here at Say Magnifique, we offer paintless dent repair, interior repair, windshield repair, wheel repair, scratch, and automotive touch-ups. A new headlight restoration system guaranteed to never have your headlights dull again. Say Magnifique is a mobile business and will come to you. Reasonable rates guaranteed. Don't hesitate to call 559-704-7525. That's 559-704-7525. Say Magnifique, your one-stop auto body shop.